Welcome to the Becoming You show with me, your host, Leah Roling. Do you believe you are capable of choosing your future? Sometimes it takes just one person to believe in you, for you to believe in yourself. If you find yourself continuing to say, someday I will take better care of myself, only to continue living the same day over and over and over again, then you, my friend, are in the right place. I am your biggest cheerleader, inspiring you to become you on purpose and with intention. Are you ready to create a life you love? I'm excited to share with you some big ideas that you can use today to inspire, impact, and influence your life and everyone in it. The Becoming You show starts now. Hello, my friends. How are you? Can you believe that this month is almost over? Well, or at least it will be when you hear this. I am pre-recording this because I am traveling over the next couple of weeks, and I'm super excited to be part of both experiences and trying not to burn out, preparing for it while still taking care of matters at work and home. But I am fired up about this topic today. You might have heard it in the news or on TikTok or social media, but it's this idea that we as a society are quietly quitting. And I will say up front that I haven't done much research to explore the historical influence on the topic, but I believe there is plenty to be had. But I do know that I don't really need to look to the past to see evidence of this in my experiences today. And perhaps linking this conversation to quiet quitting is premature of me given this lack of research. So most of the conversation will be solely on my experience of what I have seen in my own home and business and with my clients and their homes and businesses. So let me start with this conversation that is happening in the personal development and self-improvement space. It is around where we as a country, we as companies, and the collective are post-pandemic. And this is not my opinion. This has been documented historically over generations, post-war, post-tragedy. The world, the country, us go through what the great leaders are calling phases. And there's 3 phases to be exact. Phase 1 is all about survival. It's all about safety and security. This is what we are consumed by. This is what we wake up thinking about and go to bed thinking about. In this phase, our country and companies and each of us individually are in consumption of news. And as the past pandemic would have showed us, toilet paper. We make new policies and rules to support with empathy and compassion. We pay people to stay home and to be safe. And in this phase, we are not asking anyone to do anything more than just to be safe and to be scared. And then phase 2 comes. And phase 2 is all about acceptance and healing. We know now what we need to know about the pandemic or war or tragedy. System rules are put into place, and although we may not like them, we have to accept them. I mean, think back to 9/11. We went through these exact same phases. Our country shut down, then we accepted, and then we had increased airport security. I mean, I remember trying to fly back then. Early on post, it was a good 2 hours just to get through security. Similarly, in this past pandemic, we had to accept that our kids were not going back to school for a while. And most waited for guidance on what the next steps were. We healed our hearts if we lost loved ones. We were way more mindful of our health and our immune function. And we, at least some of us, reevaluated our lives. our jobs, our marriages. And yet, in this phase also, no one was asking anyone to do anything more. And if anyone did, they would have been considered offensive. Take care of you was the message. Tolerations were made, excuses were granted at home, at school, and at work. We collectively kept consuming. Stocks for Netflix and phone apps were at an all-time high. And while I believe a good majority are still in this phase 2, phase 3 is in the works, my friends, and it probably has been for a good 6 months. Some might argue longer, some shorter. But when it started is absolutely irrelevant. The point is that it is here and we have to embrace it. And if you're listening to this, it is because you are a leader, because you care about personal development. You care about the companies that you run and the companies that you work for and the home you run. You serve, you contribute. You know that this work is important for you to keep your head and your heart in a space of service and contribution. It is important to you because you think bigger than yourself. You think about the impact that you have on the world. You want to make a difference. You want to matter. You want to leave a legacy. And because of that, phase 3 is super important for you to understand. If we don't understand, we could easily hold ourselves to the same standards as everyone else is doing in phase 2. Just getting by, barely doing the minimums, crossing off boxes without heart, crossing off to-dos without purpose, punching in and out, going to bed, waking up, repeat. And I'm not even saying that they are doing it necessarily with a bad attitude. I'm just not even sure that they know that they're doing it consciously. They are just doing it out of habit. They are doing it because they are not consuming content like this that might challenge them to do more, to be more. They are listening, no doubt, to content, reading content that supports their belief that they shouldn't have to do any more than what is being asked. And if asked, they can refuse. They can quit. Why should they do more if they're not getting paid more? Why should they do more because no one else is? Why should they do more if they're not getting acknowledged and admired? And we as leaders have to know that we as leaders helped form this mindset. And I'm not even necessarily saying we shouldn't have. We needed to be empathetic and sympathetic and compassionate in phase 1 and 2. But just like with every historical downturn, we must lead the upturn. And I'm not suggesting that we throw compassion to the wind, but our empathy has turned into enabling. And we need to reset our standards for ourselves and the people that we lead, whether that is in our companies, in our projects, within our teams, or with our children. And this is not optional, unfortunately. In this phase, what happens is that people will rise and people will fall. And I want us all to rise. We are here making self-improvement a way of life. And so we have to honor the word improvement. Are we improving? Are we challenging ourselves for greatness? Are we holding ourselves to a higher standard? Not because we're getting paid more, not because of accolades, but because we must, because we have a heart that serves. We have a desire to lead, and we know that karmically, we get what we give. And it's really hard to hold other people to a standard that we alone are not willing to meet. So let's meet it. Let's step into it. Let's compete. Let's win. So how do we do that? We do that by shifting from consuming to creating. We shift that by producing the very best of ourselves. So what does that require? Got 3 ideas. The first thing that it requires is we have to have clarity on what we are fighting for. What do we want? What are we building? Why is it important? thinking about the purpose over the project. Are you leading a company? With what mission? With what outcome? Most likely to serve and add value to your clients, to your patients, to your community? What do they need? I promise you, they don't need an apathetic leader that tolerates and doesn't ask them to step up and into their own potential. That might be what they think they want, but need, two different things. My leaders will share with me that they are afraid to change courses, that they are afraid to implement new policies and rules, that their employees have come to expect the indifference, that the job market's hard, that they are afraid that these employees, if asked for more, will leave and will go someplace else, somewhere where they can continue to play small, to do the minimum without any conversation about what it might look like to exceed expectations instead of barely meeting them. And what is really interesting is if they look back at policies pre-pandemic, they will see that these are not new policies and rules that they're looking to put in place. These are the same ones that their employees were hired to do. We just shifted during phase 1 and 2. And now our companies need to shift again. We need to be brave. We need to trust that and inspire our teams to want to go that extra mile. And for those that don't, they will have a different path. And I'm not trying to be hard and mean, and this might come across as very contentious and totally counterculture. But I truly believe that people deep down want to be challenged. They want to be inspired. They want to have the mentorship that you can offer by way of believing in their capabilities. What we are saying when we're fearful that our people might quit if we ask them for more is that we don't believe in them. We don't believe that they will rise up to the standards. We need to build leaders in each and every one of our employees. Employees that lead will hold the collective accountable to lead as well. And when asked why they're doing more, it won't be because they are necessarily paid more with money, but rather they are being paid with the opportunity to grow into the very best of who they are. And at the very least, they will be able to lay their head down at night knowing that they did a good job. Wait, scratch that. They did a really good job. That they didn't just cross off lists and check off boxes and do the bare minimum because everyone else is, because that would be easy. When we were young and thinking about our careers and what we wanted to do in our life, I'm guessing none of us painted a picture of doing our job as lazy as possible. Whatever it was, we didn't envision ourselves showing up, doing the very least, the very bare minimums. We didn't envision ourselves thinking, well, I'm only going to do more if they pay me more. And if they don't, I'm not doing any more. And if no one else is doing any more, then why would I? And on a side, money is exchanged for value. Want to get paid more? Do more. Invest in skills that will level up your competencies and your ability to add more value to the company. And if you can make the company more money and do so, then have the conversation. But we first have to raise our value in how we show up first. I was raised to do my very best at whatever it was that I was doing. And then I was raised to ask for feedback on what I could have done better, differently. And then I made those adjustments. And I was raised to ask, is there anything else that I could do? Like, where are these people? Well, you are these people. And I respect and honor you for listening to this conversation. And my hope is that you will take it and you will share it with other leaders and maybe even your employees. It might be a different message coming from me than you. Either way, the conversation is imperative if companies are going to thrive. if our homes are going to thrive, if we ourselves are going to thrive. And when I think about our children, they no doubt are stuck in phase 1 and 2. Maybe it's just my kids. Maybe it's just teenage mentality. But I know that in school, the last 2 years, there were lots of accommodations made. Retakes granted, missing homework, no problem. You didn't even have to be creative with an excuse. You didn't have to say my dog ate it. Nope, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying the mental health crisis that our children faced and are still facing. Not in the least. That is real, and that is a podcast for another day. I am well aware of the mental hurdles our kids went through and are still continuing to go through. But we can lead them lovingly and compassionately to greatness. Can we redirect their mind from all about them to at least a little about the family? Can we at least try? Can we ask them to redo what was clearly done in a rush to get back to the whims of themselves? I had a conversation just last week with my kiddos. I knew who was at fault. I remembered who I had asked to feed the dog the night before. And that next morning, I went to fill the water and the food dish, and there was food everywhere. It was almost like he'd done it blindfolded. There was more food on the floor than in his dish. And I offered to my 3 children sitting at the counter, whoever fed the dog last night can clean up his area and please try again. I asked if they thought that the dog food should go in the dish or on the floor next to the dish. And thankfully, they all said in the bowl. So there is hope. Was that because they're in phase 2? Maybe, maybe not. But nonetheless, if we don't ask more for them, who is? Maybe they're coaches at school, but we are the leaders for our home. And it takes a village to support these kids on the journey. And they are amazing, and they need to be encouraged to do amazing things, to go above and beyond, not to prove themselves worthy, but to see who they can become. So we need to have clarity about what we want, what we no longer are going to tolerate and excuse. And then we have to hold people to the standard that we ourselves are living. So how do we do that? How do we elevate into a higher standard? I believe we need to produce the very best version of ourselves by examining our health. Now, health metrics are different for our country and our companies and our homes, no doubt. But what are your individual health metrics? That is what I want to spend the rest of the show talking about. But then maybe after the show, you think about, what are the measured metrics of your business, of the project that you're working on? And again, regardless of whether or not you're an employee or an owner, can you challenge those numbers? What are the metrics of your home? How do you know if things are running smoothly? Can you challenge each member to step up, to do more, to ask how they can help, to be empowered with more responsibility, not because they did anything wrong, but because they're capable of more? And for ourselves, how can we increase each of these areas, optimize each of these areas of our health so we can demand more of ourselves, so that we can serve better, lead better, contribute better, and live to the fullest of our capabilities? Doing bare minimums is not living to our potential. So where are we going to do the bare minimums in each of these areas of health? It's such an important topic, you guys. And I'm going to be talking with each of you or each of these areas over the next month. So I hope you will join me weekly as we dive into each of these one at a time. But today we're going to start with our physical health. And when I talk about physical health, I am talking about how we take care of our bodies, how we are moving, Now, I'm not suggesting six-pack abs and metabolic high-intensity movement, unless, of course, you want to. Could be fun. But I'm talking about walking, stretching, yoga, strength training, cardio. Where have you just been going through the motions in your workouts? Where have you just punted altogether on the movement? Our movement is way bigger than just caloric expenditure. It has a ripple effect on our mind and our metabolism and our moods. A healthy body equals a healthy mind. Our body was not just designed to carry around our brain. It was designed to work with our brain to heal, to learn, to get stronger. I was just listening to a podcast recently, and they said that 80% of Americans die because of chronic disease. And 100% of chronic disease is preventable. So how are we taking care of our bodies? Movement is huge. And yes, I'm super passionate about this topic. It's where most of my education is. But nonetheless, we need to be moving our body in some way every day. Let's talk about eating. What we eat matters. And again, this isn't just about counting calories, minimizing calories for deficit. This is about nutrition. It's about what we are eating is actually good or not good fuel. Or is it creating a massive amount of inflammation in the body that leads to autoimmune and all sorts of other itises? Where can we just surprise ourselves about how we can make a small change in this area? What would that look like? Maybe we don't change anything at all about what we eat, other than we add one thing that is good, that is nutrient rich in our daily diet. Maybe we decide no eating out of a bag or a box. Maybe we decide that we don't do seconds, or maybe we decide that we're no longer going to graze off of our kids' plates. It's the little things that we do consistently that is going to make the biggest difference over the long haul. I think people are unsuccessful in their quote unquote diets because we take an all or nothing approach. We make these huge promises to ourselves and then we don't follow through. And then we use it as evidence and proof that we're not good at this and that we're never going to learn how to eat properly and that we'll never lose weight because we can't get this part of the equation down. Sleep. How are we optimizing our sleep? Are we even trying to get 7, 9 hours of sleep? Do we even track it? Do we know how much REM sleep we're getting every night? Do we know there are really scientific rules about sleep optimization that says that you would be best to not eat 3 hours before you go to bed? And again, it's not a calorie in and calorie out conversation. It's way more scientific. Are you shutting down screens and work a couple of hours to give your body the right frame of mind to get the rest that you want? Where are we just going through the motions with our sleep? Or are we doing more consumption instead of creatively designing our sleep routine? Our parasympathetic practice. Where are we meditating? Where are we taking a pause, a beat to shut our eyes and to breathe? Hydration. Are we even mindful of the amount of water we take or not take? How much water do you take in every single day? Just know that almost every single one of our physiological processes requires hydrogen and oxygen. We need water to do that. You feel burned out, you feel exhausted, drink more water. Supplements. Where do you need supplementation? There are certain supplements that we just can't get with even a whole foods diet. Do you know what those are? All of these thoughts are just ways to optimize your physical health. And when you do them, I promise you, you will have more energy. And more energy is required to produce more, to demand more, to raise up and live by a different standard, to run laps around everyone else. Energy matters. I might offer that it's everything. Without it, what else matters? Without energy, you can't do the things that you love with the gusto and the glory that you want. You can't think clearly. You can't manage your emotions. You can't manage your home, your work, the people that you lead effectively. You can't inspire. Energy is required, and small steps in each of these areas will pay back huge dividends in your energy and your life. So what can you commit to doing today in each of these areas? Maybe you journal on them. Maybe you tell a friend that this is what I'm going to do. Maybe you ask them to do it with you. Maybe you take this into your work and you challenge your team to do this with you for the rest of the year. And you work on taking small steps consistently and just watch how your life changes. I want to thank you for being in this conversation with me, whether you liked it, whether you found it offensive, or whether you were inspired by it. I just appreciate you being part of it. And I want you to join me next week because we're going to dig deep into mental health and how mindsets matter. I absolutely love having you part of this conversation because it gives me hope that if we together are doing this work, we can lead others to do the same. Our country needs us, our companies need us, our families need us. We need us to step up and to step into what is possible. And I promise you, there is so much for each and every one of us. And if you want to take what I teach here and 10x your life and your company's life quicker, more purposefully, I want you to join us in next month in our Money and Mindset membership. Or you can fly to Houston and see me at the retreat that we're going to be doing in November. Oh my God, I would love to see you. And I'd love to meet you and hear from you. Honestly, nothing would make me more happy. And if you were part of our clutter conversation a few months back, I was telling you that I was creating a Live Lighter workbook, and it is now available. So you can just pop over to my website to get your copy at www.leahroling.com. I hope you have an amazing one, and I hope you spend the rest of this month and into next month protecting your energy, because as leaders leading this movement, it's required. Take care. Have a good one. See you soon.
You have been listening to the Becoming You show with me, your host, Leah Roling, where I share big ideas to inspire, impact, and influence your life. Tune in every Friday at 11 Central on transformationtalkradio.com for your morning cup of coffee, the hug you never want to end, and that inspirational message that you felt was written just for you. Each show is inspiring you to become you with purpose and intention. For more information or to connect with me, visit www.leahroling.com.